13-8, the Gems are up by 5 in the top of the 5th as the first batter in this inning going to be Owen Wilson. But as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be pleased to be joined by David Brauer, the commissioner of the Prospect League. He is joining me up now in the broadcast booth, and just wondering your thoughts on this Prospect League year. You came in, the commissioner, you named that on January the 4th, 2023, and now you've got your first season almost under your belt. Can you just talk about getting here and, your experience in the past?
Yeah, I think, coming from the college athletic side of things and working in NCAA sports, it's been quite a learning curve. There's a lot of differences. At the end of the day, we've got to try to align ourselves with college baseball because really we're an arm of that. The coaches are trusting, this league with the players that they send and to get better and to get that experience that's going to help them when they go back to school in the fall and then next spring in the season at the college level.
And I think perfect time to start the interviews. We have the short delay now breaking, but as Owen Wilson will bat, he comes up 1 for 3, and I'm just also wondering what is your kind of vision for the Prospect League can be. Obviously, there were a number of applicants for the position, but President selected you, and what do you think the Prospect League can be under your leadership?
Yeah, I think there's great potential there. I think we really need to be cognizant of, as I alluded to, aligning ourselves with college baseball and trying to work hand in hand with them, because the more you can define yourselves as something that's beneficial to these student athletes, the better. And whether that's on the field with development, off the field with opportunities, like some of the things we put in this year with, dipping our toe in the water, if you will, with NIL, with, providing each team with arm care products, and, those types of things that, can make this league a destination for schools that, want to get those players better. Obviously the Cape Cod League has cornered the market in terms of the top tier of everything, but we certainly can fit in with that next tier for sure.
And you talk about the Cape Cod League, and there's so much going on in college baseball as Stockwell will throw the first here to Wilson, but I know in the podcast earlier on in the spring, you talked about a guy, Ron Frazier. I personally have caught a lot of Hurricanes baseball down at the University of Miami as a student there. I know how much he means to that program, plus college baseball as a whole. Can you take me to his blueprint and maybe what you're trying to take from it and put into the game here?
Yeah, I mean, he's somebody that was so innovative, and it was really remarkable what he did for the sport of college baseball in the 70s and 80s, and well ahead of his time. And really that's kind of where we got to today. But, it's thinking outside the box. It's, he was big into the wacky promotions, trying to do different things that, were innovative but grew the sport. And I think some of the lessons you can take from that is trying to build the league up and get that uniformity with the teams to embrace the league and, grow the game all across our league from Missouri to Pennsylvania to Iowa to Tennessee. That's our footprint right now. And, take that, not just be concerned with your backyard and your team, but to really do the things that are going to help each other. And that's the biggest key in terms of growth.
As Wilson singles in a left field, that'll lead things off here in the top of the 5th for the Paints team, down 5. Batter going to be C.J. Dean, who's also 1 for 3. But on that point, you talk about competing with some of the other leagues like the Cape Cod League, but do you think your team or this Prospect League can use those innovations maybe, with even the fun nights that you mentioned, the family atmosphere, to draw players from Cape Cod and into this league? I mean, I've seen a number of different jerseys. I think Thrillville, a team that's a new addition, they have got a lot going on. Jackson, can you just take me through about how you think that could help you maybe draw in the absolute best?
Yeah, I think, again, it goes back to having that trust of the coaches, knowing that when they send players here, they're going to get what they want out of them. They're sending them here for a reason. It's to get better. It's to enhance their career. Maybe they're a backup this year, and they envision them as a starter next year. The fan initiatives, I think we've had a tremendous season with an attendance record this year. We've surpassed 500,000 fans. So, we've got good fan support to build on. We've got some great facilities to build on. And, I think we have all the elements. We just have to make sure we align ourselves and get everybody in the league to buy in and go the same direction.
And now the batter will be Jimmy Nugent. He is back up at the plate with a strikeout, walk, and flyout after Dean pops out for the first out. But going back to these two teams on the field, you've got Chillicothe and Quincy. They have just had domination throughout, a little before your time where you took over, although I'm sure you were familiar. They've won the most Prospect League championships, and I'm just wondering, I don't know if you've seen every year, obviously, up to this point that they've had, but what have you seen from these two teams and organizations that you think makes them so successful and they always get back to this stage?
Well, obviously they've got a formula. They've got something they got going right. It's like you said. I mean, these are the two most prominent franchises in this league in terms of championship. So it's only fitting, I guess, that they play for this championship this season. But regarding the formula for it, at this time of year, it's really just you almost have to say some luck to it because the transiency of the league. I mean, and that's not just this league. That's college baseball, summer leagues in general. You're going to have guys coming in and out, pitchers that hit their innings, players going back to school because, we are, August 10th already. And campus reporting dates are coming up, not only for school, but then to get back in the weight room for their baseball programs for the fall.
And Nugent just drives it deep to center field. Sierra going to retreat back for out number 2. Paints are still down by 5, but with that out made, it'll be Braden White, the catcher, who is right now 1 for 2 with a walk and a single. But to go back to the Prospect League plans, you guys have 17 teams right now. I know you talked about in the podcast maybe going to 18 at some point soon, even things out between East and West where you'd have 9 teams apiece. But do you think, how wide can the map get here in the Prospect League, and where, is there any spot cities you plan on putting a team?
Yeah, I don't want to say we've got a specific target in mind. I mean, a lot of it depends on what ownership group may be available. Depends certainly on the location. The footprint I think is probably about as wide as it needs to get at this point. You just don't want to create more travel if you can help it. These kids are on buses for quite a bit. I mean, you look at Chillicothe tonight; they're heading back in 8 hour drive and time change, and it's a good thing we don't have a game tomorrow, I guess, for their sake. But it's you want to look at the right formula. You want to look at the things that are set up a franchise for success, rather than just expanding for the sake of expansion, or just to get numbers, or just even a geographical area. You want to make sure all those components are there.
And with the final out made between Luce's glove, I mean, we can keep things here and keep the conversation rolling just through the rest of the inning here as the inning will be over. Gems will come up after it, but we're keeping Commissioner David Brauer for the Prospect League here in the booth to continue the conversation on the Prospect League and what's coming up. And I'm just wondering, you speak of the players and kind of looking out for their sake. We know there's some long bus rides, but you did just sign the deal with Next Name and the NIL opportunities. That was in recent news, and it's a new day and age with NIL. Can you maybe talk about what that means for Prospect League players that are now looking to play here?
Yeah, I think it's something that can give us a bit of a recruiting edge, and NIL's kind of become that dirty word, I guess, if you will, for people when they talk about college baseball or college athletics in general, because you think of the outbidding of recruits, or getting in the transfer portal and another school's going to offer more money, but that's not the case in a college summer league. Really, the goal and mission is to give players an opportunity where, one, they can better understand NIL. I mean, that's kind of the off-the-field classroom component of the summer league, I guess, is to kind of get some new experiences. And then they understand how to use that when they go back to school and maybe take on a more prominent role in their team, get a little more notoriety. But it doesn't matter what level you're at, whether it's Division I, whether it's Division III, NAIA, etc. You can still use it. But yeah, Next Name is a unique collectible opportunity. Players get a large percentage of that. It's kind of a neat thing for fans, and then even the players themselves to buy into some of these. It's along the NFT lines, and we could probably spend 2 innings talking about what that really means. But another area where we got involved this year is with a company called No Cap Sports, which handles a lot of NIL opportunities for schools across the country, including some of the biggest names in college sports. And at the bare minimum, they were providing education to these players. They had a seminar for players. Players were able to potentially sign with them to help broker some opportunities. And so, it's making those inroads that I think will be beneficial to this league down the road. Because if you think about it, you can make a little money on the side while you're in town for the summer. It's only good for the players.
And coming off that point, we will give the quick synopsis here for the bottom of the fifth. Gems are still up 13-8. Again, joined by David Brauer, the commissioner of the Prospect League. It'll be Jason Andujar to lead things off. That's 5, 6, and 7 to up for the Gems. Andujar has a couple of walks and a strikeout, but off that point of NIL, you've obviously seen a sample of this full season here in the Prospect League now, and as the rules are currently stated in the book, do you think about changing anything going into next year?
I think we're always looking at evaluations, and we want to take into account feedback from every direction: players, coaches, fans, the teams themselves, umpires. I mean, there's all these areas, and again, I think that goes back to the alignment with college baseball to try to make as similar as possible an experience that you're getting in the summer. So it's really an extension of what you do in the spring. And our umpires are CBUA umpires, so these are the umpires that a lot of these kids see during the season, and so they're used to this level of experience. It's not not a lot of green umpires that maybe have never worked a college game before, so that's an advantage. And then just trying to align our rules as much as possible, which we do follow NCAA rulebook quite a bit for the most part there, and then we have a couple nuances that we have, and again, that's something you just kind of look at annually and see what's good for the game and for the fans as well.
And I know a lot of the players on the field. Andujar notched up in a 3-1 count. Again, Gems up by 5. New pitcher, though, is Mikey Oliveira into the game with a 3.80 ERA. Has made no appearances in the postseason, but he walks Andujar to start the fifth. And building off that, I know the player base has been wide. You talked about minimizing travel, and that would certainly be a thing. But do you love when your league gets players that are outside of the state or can go a long way? I've seen guys come from Hawaii on rosters and stuff. Do you love having that feeling, knowing your league has that big of a prominence that summer ball you'll have guys travel thousands of miles?
Yeah, that means your reputation is good in different parts of the country, and it's all about the connections with coaches, and that's how you really grow the league and grow your reputation, because those players, like you mentioned, if they're from the University of Hawaii or the West Coast or anywhere in different parts of the country, they're going to go back and tell their coaches and say, hey, I had a great experience here, and then that word gets around. But that's one of the unique things about college summer leagues is you might be, whether you're a NAIA player and you're playing next to an SEC guy, or you're from Hawaii and your teammates are from 5 other states, it really makes for that unique experience. And I know players have said, hey, I would have never have been to this part of the country. I would never have seen these cities or even appreciated what some of these locations bring. So, it's really kind of that bond that you have with a college summer league.
Yeah, and you mentioned the bond. I mean, I'm sure you've been around to different parks, as you told me before the game, and as commissioner, you get to take in a lot and get all the great fan bases. Another big milestone was getting over 500,000 fans and being able to see all these things and interactions. I mean, maybe it's upcoming when you go possibly to VA Memorial Stadium in Chillicothe, but do you have a favorite memory from this season?
I think just kind of taking it all in, I think seeing some of the fan excitement and enthusiasm at some of these locations, whether it's a playoff game tonight, whether it's a playoff game earlier this week, or whether it's just during the regular season on a special night that maybe I was in attendance for. But I think that's kind of the key. Is it all goes back to that fan and player interaction, because we do have a unique product where they're accessible, they're part of the community for a couple months. Kids can get autographs, all those things that it's maybe gone away a little bit in the minor leagues to a degree, and certainly in the major leagues. So, I think it's having that bond and something we can continue to grow in each of our markets, really.
Yeah, and that'll be upstairs to Joe Siervo. 2 walks to open up the inning for this Gems offense. Already a team that's put up 13. They're up by 5, but chatting with David Brauer, again, the commissioner. If you're just tuning in, the Prospect League up here in the broadcast booth, a special treat for this championship series game number 1. Now Siervo leaving the count at 1-1, but that play-by-play aside, I'm wondering, as a commissioner, you don't often get to sit down with a lot of guys like, Roger Goodell or something like that. So in your role, what have been the biggest challenges you've had to face coming into kind of a new position? I know you've worked as kind of like SID work, that kind of thing with universities, graduate of Illinois, which is obviously where we are, but how hard is it to be a commissioner and kind of make decisions day to day?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of differences, as I alluded to earlier, between college athletics, which is predominantly my background, and college summer league. But it's really just kind of understanding each team's going to have their own needs and their opinions and their priorities and that type of thing. But it's trying to get everybody to pull together in the same direction in some things. There's got to be that give and take, and I think that's where we need to head, and that'll be the recipe for true success in this league. And if we don't have that, then are you just a collection of individual teams? It's kind of like a team within a team, if you will. You want to have the teammates pull together and play for each other.
As Siervo will ground into a potential rally killing 6-4-3 double play. The batter going to be Otto Jones, as he has quite about an RBI, 6 RBIs. He's 3 for 3 and going to grab a bat and hit here. And as you watch, do you have any favorite memories personally as well, watching baseball that inspired you to want to get into this? Did you have a favorite player or, squad or league that made you really want to be a part of baseball?
Yeah, college baseball has always been held a special thing for me in terms of growing up just, in the shadows of the University of Illinois. Obviously watching baseball at the major league level and those things, but Augie Garrido was at the University of Illinois for a couple of years when I was growing up, so it became pretty big, even though he wasn't there more than 3 years. But so there was that excitement. I think my best memory is going to the College World Series. I just made my 21st trip this year, so going back and seeing some of those great teams of the past and the players that came out of that, and just the experience there between Rosenblatt Stadium to today to Charles Schwab Field and just the pinnacle of the sport of college baseball. But there's been a lot of fun experiences, a lot of things that I cherish in the memories, and it goes back to really my earliest days that I can remember, as a little kid.
Well, Jones is going to stand there and be able to watch his teammate come across to score. As it looked like Andujar crossing the plate for the Gems, and the pass ball make it 14-8. But continuing that conversation again, off the point of the College World Series, I know Charles Schwab Field is one of the most special places. I know the Miami Hurricanes were looking to get back there, how much it means to fan bases that are going back there time and time again. Is there anything you could maybe try to take from Charles Schwab and apply to these ballparks in the championship series?
Yeah, it's such a different animal. There's so much money involved in that as opposed to where we are. But I think just the structure of it, you'd almost have to go to a neutral site in that regard to mimic it, because these are home games and it's just a different feel. But it is exciting to have our players get there. Obviously we had 2 national champion players with LSU. We had Oral Roberts represented. We had Tennessee represented. So it's great seeing players go from this league to play in the College World Series.
Well, that's been about all I have for you. If you want to wrap things up, I know we kept it for the full inning, but it's been a great conversation. Nice to have somebody up in the booth. I've been calling all these games alone, but Gems again will be up 14-8 going to the next inning, as we currently have a delay in right center. But again, it was wonderful to have you up here in the booth. We'll take a short break and be right back with the next inning. But again, just thank you again for tuning in.
Yeah, you bet. My pleasure. Happy to be on.
Awesome.